Okay. Hey, this video is going to be a walkthrough of some local species that you'd expect to find in Minnesota trout streams. Minnesota actually has some unique fisheries to it. That's obviously a huge portion of tourist dollars and revenue in the local economies. But although it's known for its 10,000 lakes, southeast Minnesota in particular doesn't have too many lakes. Instead, they have a huge number of natural trout streams. This can be because of the driftless area geology, the limestone bluffs, and creating some of those natural cold water springs in favor over over lakes down in southeast Minnesota. So we're going to go through 9 species you'd expect to find in that area and in other parts of the state. I will say it's 9, so it's going to be a little bit of a longer video. If you need to pause halfway and finish at a later date, that's fine. We have, I believe, 5 fish and 3 bugs that we're going to be looking at. Well, that'd be 8. I think we have 6 fish and 3 bugs. So let's dive into trout streams. And we're starting off looking at this one here. This is an example of a brook trout. Brook trouts are going to be the only native trout species found in Minnesota still. All right, so that's one of the one of the few native species that are left. It is naturally reproducing in certain streams throughout the state. How do you identify them? They have kind of this really bright orange belly at certain times of the year, and then they're spotted on the side. And if you look at the sketch here, it's a red spot kind of surrounded by a blue spot. It's a very mixed in with some yellow spots there. So it's a very pretty looking fish here, especially that right time of year where their colors are a little bit more vibrant. We'll take a look at that. Here's a look at kind of an over the top look at a brook trout with that red belly and the spots on the side. So first species is brook trout. Second species is a brown trout. It is not native to Minnesota. It's an introduced species. It's still going to be very trout shaped with the skin over scales and kind of this tubular body, but it has much more of a yellow belly to it. You'll notice that. And instead of those yellow and red spots, we're going to see brown spots with the brown trout there. Here's a look at a brown trout. I don't believe that's a Minnesota brown trout. I believe that's out in the Rocky Mountain regions, somewhere there. So number 2 is a brown trout. 3 is the most common trout species in the United States, and that is a rainbow trout. It's an introduced species. Actually, an interesting story when the Europeans were settling the West as they're building, railroad track, etc., going out. They would take baskets and containers full of fish eggs and deposit them alongside streams and rivers, and they're rainbow trout eggs because that was a popular game fish at the time. And so, 150 years ago, these rainbow trout were introduced throughout the Midwest and the West. They do okay here. We don't call them invasive because they don't outcompete our local species, but they are not natural. In fact, they still do some stocking of rainbow trout in certain areas for fishermen. It's got this clear kind of pinkish red line going through the middle of its body there, and it has fine dark dots along the side. And in general, it's going to be paler than the other 2 species that we saw there. So there's a look at a rainbow trout. Like I said, it's pale. It's tough to see, but there's that kind of light pink line going through the middle. So that is species number 3, a rainbow trout. Our 4th one doesn't necessarily count. We're going to have it on the list, though. It is a tiger trout. Now, this is sterile. It is mainly raised as a game fish trying to attract trout anglers into certain parts of the state, and as a tiger trout. So it's actually a hybrid. It's the offspring of a brook and a brown trout, and since it is a hybrid, like all hybrids, it is sterile. It is a tiger trout there. I say kind of a rare one to find in the state there. The fifth one actually is not found in trout streams, but in some of the deepest lakes in the state. So as you go further north than the Twin Cities, kind of out by the Canadian border, you have lakes that are, some of them can be hundreds of feet deep, and they have this very cold water. And those can house what are called lake trout. They're the biggest Minnesota trout. And like I said, they're up north in deep lakes. They're commonly sought after ice fishing species. And they want water that always stays below 65 degrees. They don't want anything warmer than that. And they can be huge. I got a picture. I think this is the state record I got a picture of. But they can be upwards of 20, 30, 40 pounds. So it's definitely a more of a salmon-like fish than what we consider to be a trout. So those are the 5 trout. We have one other fish in here, and that is a sculpin. All right, in particular, the slimy sculpin. This thing would fit within the palm of your hand. It has a sucker for a mouth, and so it's feeding on the bottoms of these streams. Play a key role in the food chains in there. So they have these 3 pelvic rays. They have this long, slender body, and they're kind of this dark brownish, really well camouflaged color. Like I said, they have a sucker for a mouth up there. So there's a sculpin. Here's a look at one that we've collected in class before. You can see, the student's hand here, and then there's that sculpin. Kind of like think of it kind of as an arrow shape, with the head being the point of the arrow there. That does it for fish you'd find in local trout streams. Our last 3 might seem kind of interesting to have on here, but they're actually really important ones. And they're going to be 3 bugs that you would find in trout streams. We'll be using these 3 bugs as, we call them indicator species. So if they're present in the water, it actually means the water is really clean. That seems a little bit counterintuitive, that bugs in the water means the water is clean. But it means that the water's free of chemicals, and it's free of pesticides, and it's free of fertilizer and manure, and so that these bugs can grow in that water. And so it wouldn't mean that you want to drink the water, but it definitely means it's clear and clean water that trout can live in. And we'll be using these 3 species later on here in the class. So the 3 species are, the first one is probably the most common. You'll see them a ton in the summertime as they hatch, and that is the mayfly. Okay, upper right is an adult mayfly. Obviously, we don't find those in the water. Instead, we find their larval stage. So as they're growing, you see this thing on the bottom right. That's what we're looking for in our streams. It is identified by that tail. See how there's 3 clear tail filaments there? If it's got a tail that has 3 parts there, we classify that as a mayfly. So it does have some very delicate wings. So once it molts and grows, you can see those at the top, and then developing eye spots along the side there. So 7 is mayfly. I'm sure that you've seen the hordes of mayflies in the summertime swarming different areas. Number 8 is a stonefly. It also likes to lay its eggs in clear, clean, moving water. You can see the adult down below and the larva up in the right corner. Notice instead of a tail in 3 parts, it's got just 2 parts there, and it has those well-jointed legs there. And last but not least is the caddisfly. This one's actually my favorite. So here's a look at the thing, and it actually builds a house around it, or a cocoon. All right, so this is what the fly looks like up at the top. That is a rock cocoon that it uses its saliva to kind of glue around its body. And so it makes this hard pack little survival shelter for it in there. So other caddisflies in different areas are in the make webs instead of little cocoons there. So those are your 9 species that you need to be able to identify this week. Use this PowerPoint and the link provided as a resource to help you study those things.